Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday night, Edwin Sifuna, the Secretary General of ODM Party, was interviewed in Citizen TV. And one of the resounding statements that he made there was that it is the priority of the people of Kenya to make sure that William Ruto only serves one term. And that statement has rattled the president today. And I want to show you how the president is talking, is losing his temper, of course, reacting to Sifuna. Before you do that, kindly subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell, and like our videos. Thank you very much for supporting the podcast. The podcast also, apart from political analysis, we come up to help the society when we are called, and we give birth to the foundation. Thank you guys for supporting the two. Without much ado, I want you to listen to what Sifuna said yesterday.
I am telling you, personally as Sifuna, we want a government that will respect the rule of law, that will respect human rights and the dignity of the people of Kenya.
Does this government do that?
This government surely does not. This government is killing the people. This government does not listen to the people. This is the worst possible government. If you go back to the spirit of the Constitution in 2010, this is the worst possible government we would have envisaged. It's the direct opposite of what we wanted. So I hear William Ruto has succeeded in bullying these guys in the opposition, Kina Kalonzo, into, he says, these people just say one term, they don't have any agenda. I want William Ruto to know that his removal from office is a national priority agenda. It is the only agenda, because his government is totally opposed to everything that this constitution stands for. And I want these people to be bold. Don't be bullied. You don't have to, he wants to push you into a corner where you're discussing markets. Tell Albert Ojwang about markets and roads. In my ranking, removing Ruto is top. It's even higher than getting a second terminal at JKI or dualing Malaba to Mombasa.
And how would we do that?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's talk about that, because there's those calls for one term.
Yeah.
The president, on the other hand, calls those calls unconstitutional.
They are not unconstitutional.
So
these terms are granted by the public. I've told you we are the sovereign. Yeah. If we decide to give you one term, we'll give you a term. If we decide to give you half a term, we impeach you. I mean, it is in the Constitution. And you can also resign midway from public pressure. We have seen it happen. We have seen it happen that governments have collapsed under the weight of the pressure of the people. Because once people have rejected you, they have rejected you. It is a constitutional way to remove somebody midterm. Yeah.
And one of those would be impeachment, as you said.
Correct.
Do you think Parliament is sufficiently independent to do that, if that is what the people would ask them to do? And you sit in the Senate, which would be a very important player in this.
Personally, if he was sent to the Senate, I would impeach him without blinking. The way the other one who was sent to us was impeached.
Yes, he said it is imperative on the people of Kenya to change the regime. And in fact, while supporting his statement, he actually said that it doesn't matter roads constructed from where to where. If the people that are supposed to use those roads are being killed recklessly, then really there is nothing to show for the roads. And of course, this is a statement that I've seen a clique of pro-GOK team descending on Sifuna. And number one, they're accusing Sifuna of failing to address Nairobi issues. I've seen also some profiling Yvonne Okwara of course, for that interview. And I think the profiling Okwara, I think it's not the right direction, because the show was Explainer. The person who hosts Explainer is Yvonne Okwara. Sifuna has been appearing in the other panel interviews every morning that actually hosted by other journalists. So because the Explainer is hosted by Yvonne Okwara, it was Of course, that was the only person that could have hosted the ODM SG. And I did that interview, I did that analysis, and I did told you that the interview last night was strictly to pick Sifuna's mind as ODM from the ODM point of view, from the ODM viewpoint. And from what the president is saying today, the reaction of the president, you'll actually see that there is something irritating him about Sifuna. And that's what I want to explain here. Today he was in KCC for some event, and as always the norm, he took the platform to give Sifuna his peace of mind. And I want us to give a response to what the president is asking.
I listened to another group of friends and Kenyans, brothers and sisters, who say Ruto must go. And for sure, just like those who were there before me, my time will come and I will go. Just like those who were there before me did. But respectfully, sirs, madams, let me ask you. So, what are your reasons for this Ruto must go? I'm sure it's not because of the spelling of his name. Maybe because you don't agree with the ideas, the policies, and the plan he has for our nation, which is okay. But please, would you kindly favor us with your counter plan, with your alternative plan? Because the more I listen, the more it is sloganeering. It's not about a plan, not about an alternative plan. And, hey, we cannot replace a plan you don't like with nothing. And I hear my brothers and sisters say, let Ruto go, then we will figure out. And we will tell you what is the alternative plan later. We cannot tell you now. To me, that sounds like the wash conmanship. Because if you seriously have a plan that does better on the economy than I have, that does better on health than I have, that does better on creating jobs than I have, that does better on education than I have, you should be bold enough to tell us. One term, Kasongo, Ruto must go, is not enough. And we are going to have a candid conversation. Nobody is going to call us. Sorry guys, you have to come up with a better plan. Sloganeering is not enough. The more I listen to them, the more they tell us, oh, let's go back to NHIF. Oh, let's go back to the old model. The NHIF that never worked. Let's go back to the old funding model that crippled our university education. Or let's abolish housing. Let's do away with SHA. And to me, they sound like people who are accustomed to the status quo.
You know, I understand that Kenya Kwanza prides of a plan. A plan. Remember, in 2022 general election, what was promised was not a plan. What was promised was delivery. The discussion about the plan was only viable before you are elected into office. But immediately you are given the mandate to make decisions and execute your manifesto, there is no way you can come back and now start demanding a plan. Number two, I think the president is keen to box the opposition and his critics on this versus that. Is it not true that opposition do not have a plan? And is it really about what the plan says? We know in this country, people don't vote on manifestos because manifestos are documents that are processed. You know, like we don't have an election coming in 2027. So I don't know why prematurely someone is asking for a manifesto. Manifestos are normally produced immediately. Now we dissolve parliament, people go back to the electorates, and we start fishing for votes. That is the time you bring in a manifesto. By the way, if you come up with the manifesto now, IBC can even ban you from vying if you start. So, but what I understand the president is not very comfortable with, and he intentionally leaves it out, is the discussion of human rights. It is a big thing, and I am a bit convinced that the plan is demanding cannot replace the calls for people, the calls for the state player to respect human rights. And there is this argument. I saw another TikToker saying that if we are going to have a conversation, then if we talk about SHA, you talk about affordable housing, you talk about funding model, you talk about CBC, you talk about kazi maju, the kind of the erosion of human rights, our brothers and sisters that have descended or ascended, I think, are not beneficiaries of all this. And the issue of violation of human rights is one aspect that I think the country is not going silent about it. But just to show you that William Ruto is boxed into in a denial edge, is this discussion about picking up another fight with Maraga.
I listen a lot to what people say about the present and the future of our country. I listened to one gentleman who retired the other day after working, I think, for 40, 50 years. And he wants to be president. And I listened to him say, Kenya is a failed state. And I asked myself, so for 40 years, you have been working in a failed state? So you want to be president of a failed state? Really? You want us to entrust you to the leadership of a country you don't believe in, to a people you don't believe in? And just for the record, companies like Lindsay, Liason, an exchange like Nairobi Stock Exchange, the best listed stock exchange last year in Africa. They don't exist in failed states.
He's also asking Maraga why Maraga speaks of a failed state and he still wants to be the president. So I want to tell you this. In that event, there was John Mbadi, who also spoke. John Mbadi spoke before the president. John Mbadi, the Treasurer CS, is one of the cabinet secretaries that has taken it upon himself to respond to those who he thinks are not supporting the president. And in my own guess, Mbadi would have then responded to Sifuna, because there are so many other statements that Sifuna made that Mbadi would have responded to. But the president picked an angle with it. And if you listen to his body language, he looks very angry. Amekazirika. And I want to tell you why he's very irritated by Sifuna. By the what Sifuna says, he's not the first person to say it. Martha Karua, Rigathi Gachagua, these Gen Zs, if you go to Bunge la Wananchi, what Sifuna is saying, what Sifuna said there is not new. And that's not the first time he's saying it. He's been saying it in Senate and everywhere. In this podcast, my position has been that the country must vet the leadership based on meritocracy. And not just at the presidency. Starting from the presidency to your governor, to your MP, to your MCA. Always look at what has he brought on board. You should always look at the leadership on that angle. And the president knows that he has a very bad verdict if that direction he takes. But then, why is he very angry with Sifuna on this? This is what is happening. When you listen, if you listen to the way Sifuna was talking yesterday, Sifuna sounds a man who is willing to work with the opposition. And that's where the problem is. There's a question he was told. He was asked to comment about the candidate of Rigathi and candidate of Matiang'i. And he said, Rigathi is impeached and cannot vie. And because Parliament had impeached him, he cannot be impeached twice. He was telling the Parliament to stop wasting time discussing him, and then they should discuss other issues. And then he was asked about Matiang'i. He said Matiang'i has its own, and still about Rigathi, he said, if Rigathi is helping reducing the votes that William Ruto got in 2027, then Rigathi is not a bad person. I want you to listen to that. Number two, when he was asked about Matiang'i, Sifuna said, no one is perfect. And if Matiang'i is going to help remove Ruto from power, so be it. Okay? And I want to tell you this. The aspect of Sifuna joining the opposition camp is not sitting pretty well with one President Ruto. I know exclusively there have been attempts to drag Malala from Rigathi's side. And Rigathi is building the profile of Malala. But technically, if they're not careful, Malala is one of the people that is not really seen as a constant figure on that end. That is the first objective. The second issue why the president is getting angry is this. And even this morning, someone, Dr. Mwema has asked me about this. And I don't know whether you also have an answer. Sifuna is in broad-based. He's in ODM Secretary General. is the ODM Secretary General. ODM party is in BBG. The party leader was interviewed in Nation and committed to working with William Ruto. The party leader attends state functions. The party leader is quoting the president. And you can see the bromance around all this. But your Secretary General, who is a focal point of the party, comes out completely a different man, saying his peace of mind. Is it a coincidence? I want to remind you that during the burial in Dori, the former Raila Odinga's bodyguard aide, President even said him and Raila, they will sit together and see how they can punish Sifuna, which nothing like that happened. So William Ruto understands that probably the critical messaging and the position that Sifuna is saying could be a strategic move by the ODM party and a clear sign that ODM party is not fully in that BBG and is reading signs of betrayal. The other issue is they have lost the information war. What the president is asking the people is about what the president is asking the people is about what the president is asking the people is about a plan. Do you think the people want a plan? No. They don't want the plan. And they don't believe on that issue of plan. They've seen plans. What people want is execution. At this point, I think those who are in power should be talking more about responsibility, more about what they have achieved, not about the plan. We cannot get to 2027 with another round of plans. You know, you cannot come again, start telling people, I'm going to do this in education. It is not about the plan. It is about you have a plan. We've seen, you already gave us your plan. So as we want to judge you on what have you achieved. Sure, yes, 23 million have registered. Can you present the number of people that are paying monthly premiums? Less than 30%. Less than 30%. You go to outpatient, their chair only wants to pay for you the consultation fee. You go to chronic, she wants to pay 30% of their 300,000 that is needed. And so on and so forth. You go to capitation, the high schools are saying, principals are saying, we are going to close if we don't receive capitation by the end of July. Shida iko mahali. Tuonane bwana.